The chains were cold against her wrists. Yuna could feel every link pressing into her skin as the guards dragged her through the dark tunnel. The smell hit her first. Blood, sweat, and something else. Something alien. She had been a soldier on Earth for 6 years. She had seen death before, but this was different. The tunnel opened into light so bright it hurt her eyes. Yuna blinked and saw the arena for the first time. It was massive. The floor was made of dark metal stained with old blood. The walls rose up like mountains, covered with thousands of seats. And in those seats sat creatures she had only seen in military reports. Aliens of every kind. Some had scales. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. They were all looking at her dot. The noise was like thunder. They were cheering, screaming, making sounds that human ears were not meant to hear. Yuna stood still and let her eyes adjust. She counted the guards. 12 near her. More by the gates. She looked at the energy shields that kept the crowd safe from the fighters. She noticed how they flickered every few seconds. She remembered everything. A voice boomed across the arena. It was loud and smooth like oil on water. "Welcome, welcome, my beautiful guests." Yuna looked up at the floating platform above the arena floor. A tall reptilian creature stood there, wearing bright golden robes. His scales were green and yellow, and his teeth were sharp when he smiled. He held a glowing microphone in his clawed hand. This was Varax. She had heard about him in the slave pens. The host, the showman, the one who decided who lived and who died for entertainment. "Tonight we have fresh meat from the outer systems," Varax shouted. The crowd roared with excitement. Criminals, soldiers, and fools who thought they could challenge the mighty collective. One by one, other prisoners were pushed into the arena. A tall blue-skinned warrior with 4 arms. A creature that looked like a bear made of stone. Something with tentacles that left a trail of slime on the ground. Each time, Varax announced their name and their crimes. Each time, the crowd reacted with cheers or boos. Then it was her turn. The guard shoved Yuna forward. She stumbled, but did not fall. She stood straight and looked ahead. Varax floated his platform down closer to get a better look at her. "And what do we have here?" he said, his voice dripping with fake curiosity. "A human. How rare. How small." The crowd laughed. Yuna said nothing. Varax made a show of reading from a glowing tablet. "This one comes from a planet called Earth, a tiny wet rock in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. She was captured during the raid on Station Kepler 7. She killed." "Oh my." He paused for effect. "She killed 11 collective soldiers before they brought her down." The crowd murmured. 11 was a big number, but Varax waved his hand like it meant nothing. "Her name is..." He squinted at the tablet. "Yuna? Yuna." He said it wrong on purpose. The way he stretched the sounds made it seem silly. "And do you know what this name means in her primitive language?" The crowd waited. "It means graceful." Varax threw his head back and laughed. The sound echoed through the arena. "Graceful. Look at her. This tiny, soft, hairless thing is supposed to be graceful." The laughter spread like fire. Thousands of aliens howled and hooted. Some pointed at her with their claws or tentacles. The noise was so loud that Yuna could feel it in her chest. But she did not move. She did not speak. Her face was calm like still water. Varax wiped a tear from his eye. "Oh, and this is wonderful. Tell me, little Yuna, do you plan to dance for us? Will you be graceful when the Krethian rips your arms off?" Yuna finally looked at him. Her eyes were dark and steady. She spoke in a voice that was quiet but clear. "My name is Yuna." Varax blinked, surprised that she had spoken at all. Then he grinned wider. "She speaks. The meat speaks. How delightful." He turned to the crowd. Should we let her keep her name, friends? Or should we give her a new one? Something more fitting for a dead woman? The crowd screamed suggestions. Most were too cruel to repeat. Varax laughed at each one. In the slave pens below the arena, a man named Tyan watched through the bars. He was human too. A medic who had been captured 3 months ago. He had seen many humans come through this place. None of them lasted long. But there was something different about this woman. The way she stood. The way she breathed. The way her eyes moved across the arena like she was solving a puzzle. They have no idea, Taeyeon whispered to himself. They have no idea what they have done. Back in the arena, Varax was finishing his show. Very well, little Yuna. You will fight in 3 days. Your opponent will be chosen by the crowd. Until then, enjoy our hospitality. He laughed again at his own joke. The guards grabbed Yuna and began dragging her toward the slave gate. As she passed the other prisoners, the four-armed warrior spat at her feet. Dead human walking, he growled. Yuna did not look at him, but she remembered his face. The slave pens were dark and wet. They threw her into a cell with metal walls and the floor covered in old straw. The chains came off, but the door locked with a heavy click. Yuna sat in the corner and closed her eyes. She thought about her grandmother, back on Earth. The old woman had given her a blade before she left for military service. It was a traditional Korean sword, passed down through 7 generations. Our family name means grace, her grandmother had said. But grace is not weakness. Water is graceful. Water also breaks mountains. The blade had been taken when she was captured. But Yuna had seen it in the weapons room when they processed her. They kept trophies from their prisoners. Stupid. They thought it was just a decoration. She opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling of her cell. Somewhere up there, Varax was probably still laughing. The crowd was probably still making jokes about the small human with the silly name. That was fine. Let them laugh. Yuna pressed her hand against the cold wall and made a promise to herself. She would get her blade back. She would find the other humans in this place. She would learn every weakness this arena had. And when the time was right, she would show them what grace really meant. The jokes would stop. She would make sure of it. 3 days passed slowly in the slave pens. Yuna used every moment. She watched the guards and learned their patrol times. She listened to other prisoners talk about the arena. She exercised in her cell, keeping her body ready. And she found Taeyeon. The medic came to her cell on the 2nd night. He bribed the guard with something he had stolen from the medical bay. When he saw Yuna doing push-ups in the dark, he almost smiled. You are not like the other humans who come here, he said quietly through the bars. Yuna stopped and looked at him. How many humans have come here? 17 in the 3 months I have been here. Taeyeon paused. All dead now. How did they die? Some in the arena. Some gave up hope and stopped eating. One tried to fight the guards. It did not end well. Yuna nodded slowly. And you? How are you still alive? I am useful. I can fix wounds that alien medicine cannot. They keep me alive because I keep their fighters alive long enough to die in the arena. His voice was bitter. What about you? Why have you not given up? Yuna stood and walked to the bars. In the dim light, Taeyeon could see her eyes. They were not the eyes of someone who had given up. They were not the eyes of someone who was afraid. They were the eyes of a hunter. They have a little girl in the upper cells, Yuna said. Human, maybe 9 years old. Her name is Nari. I heard the guards talking about her. Taeyeon's face became sad. I know about her. They use her to control the human fighters. If you do not fight well, she suffers. Then I will fight well. The 3rd day came. The guards dragged Yuna from her cell and took her to the preparation room. It was a large space filled with weapons and armor. She saw axes made of energy, shields that could block lasers, and suits of armor that looked like they came from nightmares. She also saw her grandmother's blade hanging on the wall with other trophies. "Pick your weapon, human," a guard growled. "Any weapon but the ones on the trophy wall." Yuna looked at the choices. There were many powerful weapons. Guns that could melt metal, hammers that could crack stone. But she walked past all of them and picked up a simple short sword. It was plain metal, slightly curved, similar enough to the blade she had trained with her whole life. The guard laughed. "That is your choice? You will die fast." "Maybe," Yuna said. They put light armor on her, just enough to protect her chest and back. Then they pushed her toward the arena gate. Through the bars, she could hear the crowd already cheering. Varax's voice echoed as he warmed them up with jokes and promises of blood. The gate opened. Yuna walked into the light. The arena looked different from the floor. It felt smaller somehow, more personal. The crowd was a wall of noise and color surrounding her on all sides. She could see Varax floating above on his platform, wearing even brighter robes than before. "And here she is," Varax announced with fake excitement. "The graceful human, the tiny dancer, little Yuna." The crowd laughed. They remembered the joke from 3 days ago. Yuna stood in the center of the arena and waited. "Now, let us meet her opponent." The crowd has chosen wisely. They want to see something special for this human's first and last fight. A massive gate on the far side of the arena began to open. The sound of metal grinding against metal filled the air. Then Yuna heard footsteps. Heavy footsteps that shook the ground. The Crethian stepped into the light dot. It was nearly 8 feet tall. Its body was covered in natural armor that looked like plates of bone. Its arms were thick like tree trunks, and its hands ended in claws that could tear through steel. Its face was flat and brutal, with small red eyes filled with rage. It carried no weapon because it did not need one. "Gorath the Crusher," Varax screamed. 47 kills. Undefeated in single combat. They say he once ripped a starship door off its hinges with his bare hands. The crowd went wild. Numbers appeared on screens around the arena. The betting odds: 47-1 against the human. 30 seconds. Someone in the crowd yelled. "The human dies in 30 seconds. Others took up the chant. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Varax grinned down at Yuna. "Any last words, little dancer?" Yuna did not answer. She adjusted her grip on the short sword and lowered her stance. Her eyes never left the Crethian. She watched how it breathed, how it shifted its weight, where the gaps were in its bone armor. The bell rang. Gorath roared and charged. The ground shook with each step. He was fast for something so big. His claws reached for her, ready to crush and tear. Yuna did not move. The crowd gasped. Was she frozen with fear? Had she given up already? Gorath was 3 steps away. 2 steps. 1 step. His massive arm swung down like a hammer. Yuna moved. She did not run. She did not jump. She simply was not where the claw landed. 1 small step to the side, smooth as water flowing around a stone. The Crethian's arm hit empty air and kept going down from its own force. That was when Yuna struck. Her blade moved in a single arc. It was not a big movement. It was small and precise. The edge found the gap behind Gorath's knee, where the bone armor did not cover. It cut through tendon and muscle like they were paper. Gorath screamed. His leg collapsed under him. The mighty crusher fell to one knee, confused and enraged. He tried to turn, tried to grab her, but his body would not obey. Yuna was already behind him. Her second strike was quick and clean. The blade found the back of his neck, the one spot where the bone plates met and left soft flesh exposed. Gorath, the Crusher, fell forward and did not move again. The arena was silent. 47-1. 30 seconds. Those had been the predictions. The fight had lasted less than 10. Yuna stood over the body, her blade dripping red. She was not breathing hard. She was not shaking. She looked up at Varax on his platform. The host's smile was frozen on his face. He recovered quickly, like the professional entertainer he was. Well, he announced, his voice a little too loud. It seems even vermin get lucky sometimes. Some aliens in the crowd laughed, but the sound was uncertain. They had seen something they did not understand. The human had not won with strength or luck. She had won with something else. Something that made them uncomfortable. Yuna turned and walked toward the slave gate. As she passed under Varax's platform, she stopped and looked up at him. She did not say anything. She did not need to. Varax felt a chill run down his spine. For just a moment, he was not looking at a slave or a prisoner. He was looking at something that scared him. He pushed the feeling away and continued his show. But later that night, alone in his quarters, he would remember her eyes, and he would not sleep well. The arena masters were not happy. Yuna's quick victory over Gorath had made them look like fools. The betting houses had lost money. The crowd had left confused instead of satisfied. Someone had to pay for this embarrassment. Varax brought the news to Yuna's cell himself. He wanted to see her face when she heard. "Good morning, little Yuna," he said through the bars, his smile wide and cruel. "I have a gift for you. The masters have decided to give you a special honor. Tomorrow, you will face the gauntlet." Yuna looked up from where she sat. "What is the gauntlet?" 5 opponents. One after another. No rest between fights. Varax's eyes glittered with pleasure. "Even our strongest champions struggled to survive 3. No one has ever survived all 5. But do not worry. Your suffering will be brief." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, I almost forgot. The little girl, Nari. She will be watching. If you surrender, or if you refuse to fight, she will be given to the Krethian slave traders." He paused to let the words sink in. "I am told they have unpleasant uses for human children." Yuna's hands tightened into fists, but her voice stayed calm. "I will not surrender. We shall see." After Varax left, Taeyin came to her cell. His face was pale with worry. "You cannot do this," he whispered. "The gauntlet is designed to kill. Even if you beat the first 2, you will be too tired for the 3rd. By the 4th and 5th, you will be dead on your feet. Then I will die on my feet. Yuna, please. There must be another way." She looked at him with those steady dark eyes. "There is no other way." "Not yet, but I am watching. I am learning." The shield generators flicker every 40 seconds. The guards change shifts at midnight. The weapons room has only 1 camera, and it does not cover the trophy wall. She paused. "When the time is right, I will need your help. Can I count on you?" Taeyin stared at her. He had thought she was just another fighter trying to survive. Now he understood. She was not just surviving. She was planning. "Yes," he said. "You can count on me." The next day, the arena was packed. Word had spread about the human who killed Gorath in 10 seconds. Now everyone wanted to see her die in the gauntlet. They came from all over the station, paying high prices for seats. The betting board showed new odds. Nobody bet on the human anymore. Yuna walked into the arena carrying the same simple short sword. She wore the same light armor. She looked exactly the same as before. Small, quiet, calm. Varax floated above on his platform, his voice booming through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen and creatures of all kinds, today we witness something special. The arrogant human who embarrassed our beloved Gorath will now face justice. 5 champions. No mercy, no rest. The crowd screamed with excitement. They wanted blood. They wanted to see the human broken. The first opponent was a Vesely assassin. Its body was thin and covered in black scales that could blend with shadows. It moved like smoke, appearing and disappearing across the arena. Its long claws dripped with poison dot. The Vesely attacked from the shadows, striking fast and vanishing before anyone could see. Most fighters would panic. They would swing wildly at empty air until the poison finished them. Yuna closed her eyes. She listened. The Vesely was fast, but it still had to breathe. It still made tiny sounds when it moved. Years of training had taught her to fight in complete darkness. This was no different. When the assassin struck again, Yuna was ready. She did not try to see it. She felt the movement of air, heard the whisper of scales on sand. Her blade moved on instinct. The Vesely fell, its throat opened before it could vanish again. The crowd murmured. One down. The second and third opponents came together. Twin Morduk duelists, brothers who had fought side by side for 20 years. They were perfect partners, covering each other's weaknesses, attacking from two angles at once. Yuna did not try to fight them both. Instead, she focused on one brother, pressing him back with quick attacks. When the other brother moved to help, she gave ground. When they tried to surround her, she slipped away. Slowly, the brothers grew frustrated. They started taking risks. They stopped communicating. And when brother swung too wide, Yuna was there. Her blade found his arm. He dropped his weapon dot. The other brother screamed in rage and charged without thinking. Yuna used his anger against him. She stepped aside and let him crash into his wounded brother. Before they could recover, she finished them both. 3 down. The crowd had stopped cheering. They watched in silence. The fourth opponent was a cybernetic gladiator. Half machine, half organic matter. Its body was covered in metal plates, and its arms could transform into different weapons. Guns, blades, hammers. It had killed hundreds. This fight was different. Yuna could not overpower or outmaneuver a machine. It did not get tired. It did not get angry. It simply calculated and attacked. But machines had weaknesses too. Yuna let it chase her across the arena. She studied its movements, watching for patterns. Every machine had patterns. After 2 minutes, she found what she was looking for. A bundle of wires exposed at the joint of its left arm. Every time it transformed weapons, the wires were visible for half a second. She waited for the right moment. When the gladiator switched from gun to blade, Yuna moved. Her sword sliced through the wires. Sparks flew. The left arm went dead. The gladiator tried to compensate, but Yuna was already attacking the other side. More wires. More sparks. The machine collapsed, twitching and smoking. 4 down. Yuna was bleeding now. A cut on her arm, a bruise on her ribs. She was breathing hard. But she was still standing. The crowd was completely silent. Varax had stopped making jokes. He stared down at the human woman with something new in his eyes. Not amusement. Not contempt. Something closer to fear. The 5th gate opened. The final opponent stepped out. It was a Gorvathi warrior, smaller than Thukran the champion, but still massive. It carried a hammer that crackled with electricity. Yuna raised her sword. Her arms were shaking from exhaustion. Her vision was blurring at the edges. Every part of her body screamed for rest, but she thought of Nari, the little girl watching from a screen somewhere, waiting to see if she would survive. The Gorvathi charged. Yuna did not have the strength to be clever anymore. She met the charge head-on. The hammer swung. She ducked. Her blade stabbed upward. The Gorvathi roared and swung again. She rolled. She cut. She kept moving, even when her body begged her to stop. The fight lasted 3 brutal minutes. When it ended, Una stood over the fallen Gorvathy, covered in blood that was both hers and not hers. Her sword arm hung limp at her side. She could barely breathe, but she was alive. 5 opponents. All dead. The arena was silent. Nobody cheered. Nobody laughed. They looked at the small human woman standing alone in the center of the bloody sand, and they understood something important. This was not luck. This was not an accident. This was something they had never seen before. Vorax opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. For the first time in his career, he had nothing to say. Una looked up at him. Then she turned and walked toward the slave gate. Her steps were slow and painful, but her head was held high. Behind her, the silence stretched on. The crowd never laughed again. After the gauntlet, everything changed. Una spent a week in the medical bay. Taeyeon worked on her wounds every day, using skills he had learned on Earth and tricks he had picked up from alien medicine. The cuts healed. The bruises faded. But the change that mattered most was not in her body, it was in the station. Word spread through, Theskara like fire through dry grass. Slaves whispered to each other in the dark. Guards talked during their shifts. Merchants gossiped in the markets. Everyone had heard about the human woman who survived the gauntlet. The one who killed 5 champions without rest. The one with the funny name that did not seem so funny anymore. Yuna. In the slave pens. Prisoners began carving her name into the walls. At first, it was just humans. Then other species joined. A mark of hope. A symbol of defiance. The guards tried to scrub the carvings away, but new ones appeared every night. Fighters started refusing to face her. 3 warriors from different worlds told the arena masters they would rather be executed than step into the ring with the human. The masters were forced to increase the rewards for anyone willing to fight her. Still, few volunteered. Vorax felt the change most of all. His shows were not the same anymore. The crowd came, but they did not laugh at his jokes. They watched with quiet eyes, waiting to see if the human would fight again. The entertainment had become something else. Something serious. Something that made everyone uncomfortable. The arena masters called Vorax to a meeting. They were powerful beings, the ones who controlled the station's blood sport industry. They sat in shadows, their faces hidden, their voices cold. "You have created a problem," one of them said. Vorax bowed his head. "I did not expect the human to survive." Nobody did. Expectations do not matter. Results matter. The crowds are restless. The fighters are afraid. Our profits are falling. Another master spoke. "We need a spectacle. Something that will restore order. Something that will show everyone that humans are nothing special." Vorax thought quickly. His life depended on giving them a good answer. What if she fights the champion? Silence. Then one of the masters leaned forward. "Thukrin the Unbroken?" "Yes, Thukrin has never lost. Not once in 15 years. If he destroys her, the legend dies. Everything goes back to normal." The masters considered this. Thukrin was their greatest asset. He was worth more than 100 regular fighters. Risking him was dangerous, but the human problem was worse. "Very well," the lead master said. "Arrange it, but make it special. Make sure everyone in the galaxy is watching." Vorax smiled, his confidence returning. "I know just how to do that." The announcement came 3 days later. Every screen on the Scar station showed Vorax's face as he made the declaration. "Citizens and guests of the Skara, in 1 week, we will witness the greatest battle in arena history. The human Una will face our undefeated champion, Thukrin the Unbroken. And to make this fight truly memorable, we have added a special condition." The screens changed to show Nari. The little girl was sitting in a cell, her eyes wide with fear. She looked thin. She looked tired. She looked like she had not seen sunlight in months. If the human loses, this child dies. If the human refuses to fight, this child dies. If the human tries to escape, this child dies. Varax grinned at the camera. The stakes have never been higher. Do not miss it. The transmission ended. In a medical bay. Yuna watched the screen with cold fury in her eyes. Taeyeon stood beside her, his hands shaking with anger. They are monsters, he whispered. Yes, Yuna's voice was flat. And monsters can be killed. But Thakran. Yuna, you have not seen him fight. He's not like the others. He's faster than anything that Sai should be. Stronger, too. And he is smart. He does not make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Not him. In 15 years, no one has even wounded him. They call him the Unbroken because nothing has ever broken him. No blade, no weapon, no opponent. Yuna turned away from the screen. Then I will be the first. That night, Taeyeon came to her cell with information. He had spent weeks gathering it, talking to guards, bribing workers, mapping the station systems. The eastern gate, he said quietly. Behind it are the main shield generators for the arena. If they go down, the energy barriers fall. The slave pens connect to the arena through emergency tunnels. If the shields fail and the gates open, the prisoners can escape into the arena, Yuna finished. Yes, but there is a problem. The generators have backups. If you destroy the main system, the backups activate in 2 seconds. That is not enough time to do anything. Yuna thought about this. What if someone disabled the backups first? Taeyeon hesitated. The backup controls are in the engineering section. Heavy security, but during a big fight, most guards are pulled to the arena. Security gets thin in other areas. Could you reach the controls during the fight? Maybe, if I time it right. Taeyeon looked at her with worried eyes. What are you planning? I am planning to give the Scar station something it has never seen before. Yuna's voice was calm, but hard like steel. I am not just going to win this fight. I am going to end this place. Taeyeon was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. What do you need from me? Disable the backups when I give the signal. And make sure Nari is ready to move. Can you get a message to her? I think so. One of the food workers owes me a favor. Good. Tell her to watch for the lights. When the arena goes dark, she runs to the eastern tunnel. Do not stop for anything. Taeyeon memorized every word. Before he left, he asked one more question. And your blade? The one from Earth? Yuna's eyes flickered. I know where it is. The trophy wall in the weapons room. The camera does not cover it. When will you take it? The night before the fight. When they bring me to the preparation area. She paused. It is time I fought with my family's blade again. Taeyeon nodded and disappeared into the shadows. Yuna lay down on her cell floor and closed her eyes. She thought about everything that had to go right. The timing, the signals, the hundreds of things that could go wrong. One mistake and she would die. One mistake and Nari would die. One mistake and all the slaves on this station would lose their only chance at freedom. But she had made a promise. To herself. To her grandmother's memory. To every human who had died in this arena before her. The name. Yuna meant graceful. She would show them what that really meant. Outside her cell, guards walked past without looking in. They did not see the smile on her face. They did not know that their world was about to change forever. In 1 week, the arena would burn, and the galaxy would never forget why. The arena was packed beyond capacity. They came from every corner of the galaxy. Rich merchants paid fortunes for front row seats. Crime lords watched from private boxes. Diplomats and generals sat beside gamblers and thieves. Every screen on the station broadcast the event. Ships in orbit tuned in from their cockpits. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Una stood in the preparation room, her grandmother's blade in her hands. She had taken it the night before, just as she planned. The guards never noticed. They were too busy preparing for the big event. Now the familiar weight of the sword felt like coming home. The steel was old but sharp. The handle fit her grip perfectly. 7 generations of her family had carried this blade. Tonight, it would write a new chapter. The gates opened. Una walked into the light. The noise was overwhelming. 100,000 aliens screamed and roared. The sound crashed against her like waves against rocks. But Una did not flinch. She walked to the center of the arena and stood still, her blade at her side. Varax floated above on his platform, dressed in his finest robes. But something was different about him tonight. His smile was too wide. His voice was too loud. He was scared, and he was trying to hide it. Welcome to the greatest night in arena history," he shouted. "On one side, we have the human who refuses to die, the woman who survived the gauntlet. Una the Graceful." He said her name correctly this time. No jokes, no mockery. The crowd noticed. And on the other side, the terror of 12 systems, the destroyer of armies, 15 years undefeated. "I give you Thukran the Unbroken." The far gate opened, and Thukran stepped into the arena. Una had seen big opponents before, but Thukran was something else entirely. He was 9 feet tall and built like a mountain. His gray skin was covered in ritual scars, each one marking a kill. His eyes were yellow and empty of mercy. He wore armor made from the bones of his fallen enemies. In his hand, he carried a massive war axe that crackled with dark energy dot when he walked. The ground shook. When he breathed, the sound was like thunder. He stopped 20 feet from Una and looked down at her. His lips curled into something that might have been a smile. "Tiny human," he said, his voice deep as an earthquake. "I have killed thousands. You are just one more." Una raised her blade. "Then come and collect." The bell rang. Thukran charged with terrifying speed. His axe swung down with enough force to split a ship in half. Una rolled sideways, feeling the wind as the blade passed inches from her head. The ground where she had stood exploded into dust and metal. She countered with a quick strike to his leg. Her blade bounced off his armor without leaving a scratch. The crowd roared. Thukran laughed. "Your little sword cannot hurt me, human. My armor has stopped plasma cannons." He swung again, and again. Each attack was faster than the last. Una dodged and ducked, but she could not find an opening. He had no weaknesses, no gaps in his defense. For the first time since the arena began, Una felt doubt creeping into her mind. Then Thukran's axe found her dot. It was just a glancing blow, but it sent her flying across the arena. She crashed into the wall and fell to the sand, gasping for breath. Blood ran from a cut on her shoulder. Her ribs screamed with pain. The crowd exploded with cheers. Finally, the human was losing. Varax leaned forward on his platform, his fear turning to excitement. "It seems our champion is too much for the little dancer. Shall we end this quickly?" Una pushed herself to her feet. She looked at Thukran. She looked at the wall behind her. She looked at the eastern gate. Then she smiled. She was not trying to defeat him in a straight fight. She never was. She was leading him exactly where she needed him to be. Una ran. Not away from Thukran, but toward the eastern gate. The crowd booed, thinking she was trying to escape. Thukran roared and chased her, his axe raised for the killing blow. That was when Una raised her hand and made a fist. The signal. Across the station. Tayam pressed a button in the engineering room. The backup generators died. Una kept running until she was directly in front of the eastern gate. Thukrin was right behind her, his axe swinging down with all his terrible strength. She dropped flat. The axe missed her by inches and slammed into the shield generator behind the eastern gate. Sparks flew. Metal screamed. The generator exploded. The arena went dark. For 2 seconds, there was nothing but chaos. The energy shields that kept the slaves contained flickered and died. The gates to the slave pens swung open. Emergency lights tried to activate, but Taeyun had disabled those 2 dots in those 2 seconds of darkness. Everything changed. Prisoners flooded into the arena. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Humans and aliens who had been forced to fight and die for entertainment. They grabbed weapons from fallen guards. They tore down barriers. They screamed with the rage of the enslaved finally set free. The lights came back on. Varax looked down at the chaos below and felt his blood turn cold. This was not a fight anymore. This was a revolution. Thukrin roared and swung his axe at the nearest prisoners. But there were too many. They swarmed him from all sides. Even the Unbroken could not fight an army. Yuna did not watch. She had one more thing to do. She ran through the chaos until she found him. Thukrin was surrounded, but still fighting. Still killing. He would never stop on his own. Yuna pushed through the crowd until she stood before him. Their eyes met. "You should have stayed down, human," Thukrin growled. "I do not stay down," Yuna said. "I have never stayed down." She attacked. Not with wild swings or desperate lunges. She attacked with 15 years of training. She attacked with the memory of every human who died in this arena. She attacked with grace. Her blade found the gap between his helmet and his armor. The one spot nobody had ever reached. The one weakness in his unbroken defense. Thukrin the Unbroken fell. The arena went silent. Prisoners stopped fighting. Guards stopped running. Everyone stared at the small human woman standing over the fallen champion. Yuna walked to the announcer's platform where Varax cowered. He tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. She climbed up and took the microphone from his shaking hands. Her voice echoed across the station, across the ships in orbit, across every screen in the galaxy. "My name is Yuna," she said. "It means graceful." She turned to the crowd, to the prisoners, to the universe watching. Remember it. At that moment, a small figure pushed through the crowd. Nari ran across the bloody sand and threw her arms around Yuna. The little girl was crying, but they were tears of relief. Tears of hope. Yuna held her tight with one arm, her grandmother's blade still in the other. The screens across the Scar station showed the same image. A small human woman, an ancient sword, a child in her arms, an empire of cruelty burning behind her. No one laughed. No one spoke. The galaxy had learned a new word for hope. And it was a human name.